Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jerzy Zewicki from Digital Home Systems. We're going to start in about 5 minutes our next webinar presented by Ian Harding from ABB. Ian Harding is KNX certified trainer, and today he will be presenting the webinar on KNX tool ETS version 5. Digital Home Systems is a distributor of Z-Wave devices and KNX devices. We are experts in smart home technologies, in domestic and light commercial installations. We offer our products to all professional installers in Australia and New Zealand and our part of the region. We offer not only products, a full range of Z-Wave wireless devices and KNX devices from ABB and Comfort Click, but also we provide professional technical support, training programs, including access to our knowledge base, and we also offer to installers a referral program. So whenever end customer is asking for installation or help in troubleshooting, extension their current installation, we refer these requests to the nearest experienced certified installer. Today we'll have Ian Harding from ABB. Ian will be talking about programming, KNX programming, particularly using ETS tool for that. Next week, Ian is kindly going to provide another webinar on KNX and DALI light control. KNX is very universal protocol, and there's plenty of devices, particularly from ABB. You have almost anything you can automate. One of those things you can automate and control through KNX devices is DALI subsystem. Those who are working with commercial smart lighting, you know very well DALI, but today next week we'll be talking about how to control DALI from KNX. And the last in this series for now is in 2 weeks' time. We'll be coming back to Comfort Click, KNX, and Z-Wave gateways. This time we'll be talking about higher level business cases. All these installations which has been done and all those good ideas on the higher level, which I think will be very, very interesting, having already a lot of nitty-gritty technical level details provided 2 weeks ago.
Thanks, Jerzy. Thanks for the nice introduction. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all here again to listen to me more about KNX. Today, what I'm going to do is show you ETS, show you how we can program devices, and you know, I'll show you around KNX. It takes a bit of getting used to. There's a bit of information in it, but it's not too hard. With a bit of practice on that, you'll find your way around it, no problem. So I have opened up my main ETS screen here at the moment. You can see everything on my screen. I have a list of projects that I've previously worked on. I can export a project here. If I select a project, I can export a project, save the file, send it to Jerzy, and send it to you guys. We can do whatever we want with these projects. You send me a project, I can import the project. I can import the project from wherever we are, whatever we have. You send me a file, I can import it. Remember the file extension? It's a knx.proj or .knxproj file. And once you send me that, I can open your project and I can have a look at your project and all that's in your project. Yeah. On the main window, what we always see as well is there's always a window here for the latest KNX news, what's happening, what's going on, and there's all sorts of news goes up into this screen. And beside it, we have a very useful window sometimes. It's a new KNX products. And this window it's a constantly cycling window of new products that manufacturers are releasing now. With over 400 manufacturers, it can be quite difficult to keep up to date with all that's going on in the KNX world. So very often I'll sometimes just come in here and just have a click on these two buttons up here. You can see these two buttons. And if you just click onto those buttons, it will just cycle through whatever new products have been released, whatever you can see. So there's a huge amount of information available here. It just cycles. I've never gotten to the end of this list. It just cycles on and on and on and on and on. And that's the power of KNX with over 400 manufacturers now. It's just that there's so much product being released. It's a brilliant system to use, and you will never run out of product for your projects. Okay? That's the most important thing. Another thing is to create a new project. We'll look at that in a minute. Down the bottom, you will see your ETS version. Yeah, currently this version is 574. Yeah, build 1093. If you click on that, it will cyclically check if your software is up to date. You can see now, you can drive it if you want to go and check, but I always recommend people to go and, before you do a new project, when you're doing things, just go and check that your ETS is up to date. Time to time, there are bug fixes released. There are bugs come out, of course. As with all software nowadays, people release updates time to time. They get rid of bugs. There's new features added, etc. So always make sure that you have this up to date before starting new projects. Yeah, very important. Your licenses here, you can see what applications and what licenses you have. You can see I have all these various apps from the ETS store installed on my laptop at the moment, you know. And that's very important here. You can see what apps you have, what apps you need. It'll tell you down the bottom what license. I have the full ETS professional license. This gives me unlimited projects with unlimited size. So once you have that, you can really do anything you want with ETS. And there on the side, if you want to make apps active or get rid of them or whatever you want to do with them, you can tick these boxes. You can untick these boxes. You can do whatever you want with this. So I have 12 installed, and you can see I only have 5 apps active. They're the ones I'd use from time to time. The other ones I don't use that much, but I have them there, and if I need them, they're there. I can use them. So time to time, I'll use them. You can see when I click on a project, we get all the project example. And this can be handy and useful information for people. This particular project, I was talking to a guy this morning about it. It's actually his house. He has just a project name in there. He hasn't got a number, contact number, start dates. He hasn't done too much with it, but you can just see general information that's available. Passwords. I'm against setting passwords. We have an open protocol, putting passwords onto projects and locking projects. Okay, if I have my own business and I'm trying to run my own business, maybe it makes sense. However, my feelings are that by locking things and preventing access to other people, we are damaging the industry in total. Everybody just thinks it's too hard to work with this because I can't get the password, or there'll be a myriad of different excuses from all our competitors. They all say, oh, well, you know, we don't need that, we don't need this, we don't need that. But I tend not to use passwords and always say to people, don't use passwords. If you put passwords on a project, not only do you stop other people getting into the project, but if you forget that project, you stop yourself getting into that project. I've had people do that before and come back to me, no, how do I do it? And, guys, you know, you've locked it. I can't do anything about it. And especially with this one, the BCU, for the bus coupling unit in a device, sure, you can set a password for that device. But us as manufacturers can never unlock that device. So if you have a device, a switch or a bus coupling unit, whatever you have around the place, you lock the password on this device, we cannot open it, and nobody will ever be able to access it again if you forget that password. So that's my thoughts on passwords and security and locking things down. I know not everybody agrees, but to me, I work in the KNX industry, and I think it's important that we all have access to each other's projects, and we all should be able to work throughout the place. Otherwise, we just keep hearing about things that are too difficult, etc., etc., etc. And there's also some security. If you want security settings there, there's a project log. You can add, if there's multiple people working on a project, we can add various comments into this project log if we want, you know. And then there's a tab for project files, okay? So there's lots of information available from this first window. We have an archive section. I have nothing archived. I never archive stuff I don't need to. And there's an ETS inside. ETS inside is another sort of simple version of ETS. I never use it. I wouldn't recommend it. If we're doing big projects, stick with the main window and always work with the main window. Okay, so that's the very first page, and that's the front page. Wherever you are in ETS, once you hit this green button up the top here, it will always bring you back to this home page. Yeah, important to remember. Our next tab is our bus connections. Okay, you can see I have my computer here. It's on my home network, so I have an IP router connected into my kit here. It's got an address on my home network, and I can connect to it if I want. Unfortunately, I have a new laptop, and corporate security being what they are, especially as we're all now working at home, they've locked my laptop down now, and I can't actually use it. They blocked telegrams on it, and we're working with them to try and get around this. But as with anything, you know, it's trying to get these security guys to change their minds on something can be a difficult thing. So what I have instead is I have a direct USB connection onto my network here. And a USB connection is always the easiest way to connect to a KNX network. You're guaranteed it's going to work. You will connect directly onto the KNX lines. If you remember last week where we looked at the KNX topology in the various different areas throughout a KNX topology, you can take your USB interface and connect it anywhere you want onto your network. One thing you got to remember though is make sure it has the address. The address is correct. So you can see I have address of 1.1.200. Remember, that's area 1, line 1, device 200. And when I'm choosing a device address for my USB, we can go in here and we can click on the is the address free button. So what the computer does then, ETS does, it'll scan the line and see, is there anybody else with that address? So it's not used by anybody. That's fine. I can use it. I can test it if I want, and it'll come back with an OK. If I want to use the IP one, I can test and select this one as well, but I'm not going to do that because it just gives me problems. It's just my network just gives me problems. So I will select that one, and now I'm connected live to my KNX network. Yeah, on my PC here, I can download, upload, monitor telegrams. I can do whatever I want on the network. We have options then, different connections. Yes, never really touch these. They're really default, leave them as they are. There's never really much need to do anything with that. The next window is very interesting, the group monitor and the bus monitor. The group monitor, I can start there. I am now live on the bus. If any telegrams are sent on that bus, if any devices start communicating on that bus, I will see some information here. Now, of course, because I have a small little network here and it's just connected with nothing happening on it, I won't get anything. I won't get anything happening at all here at the moment. But you can see all the information. We can get the time of the telegram, what's happening, flags, priority, source address, destination addresses. We can get various different information on a telegram, and it's very important here. We can see all the telegrams will tell us what's happening on the network. Also important to note is we can leave the group monitor running all the time. The group monitor will just sit there looking at all the telegrams as we program, as we download, as we press buttons to see things interacting and happening on the bus. It just sits there and it will always record whatever's happening. I'll talk a bit about group addresses later, but from here we can send a group address onto the bus, and we're simulating a telegram sending on the bus by doing this. So I can select a group address, I can select what data point type it is, and I can turn it on or off or whatever we're doing depending on the data point type. I can then simulate a message being sent on the bus, and I can see what happens. I can look at the reaction of various other devices to see if I program them correctly. So I'll just stop that now. You can see the other options you have for that. You can save it, you can open it into a HTML file, you can clear it, you can print it. So you have all these functions here. Very often if somebody has problems on a bus, I'll ask them to record some of the telegrams and show me what's happening. So you can take this, you can save the file out as an XML file. And I can get that file and I can import it back in here. And once I import, I can open it in here. And again, I'm just looking at the Telegram file that was saved. Once I have that, I can import it and I can look at the telegrams on your bus. It'll give me everything that's happened. And I can see what's happening on the bus. I can see where there's clashes. Where there's anything happening, we can have a look and we can monitor and we can see what's happening. The next important one is the bus monitor. Now, the bus monitor is a different beast to the group monitor because the bus monitor absolutely sees everything that happens on the bus. He will see failed telegrams. He will see repeat telegrams. He will see all that sort of information on the bus. I don't use it as much, only when fault finding. The reason for that is that when the bus monitor is active, it takes the sole connection to the bus. So we can't download, we can't do anything else on the bus. We're stuck. This guy has the bus, will not let anybody else use it, and we're stuck at that. I mean, I won't be able to have any other communication onto the bus. So for me, it's not so useful when commissioning and programming. However, if funny things are happening and strange things are happening, it's handy just to go in here, let it run for a while, and see what's happening. You'll be able to see from the telegrams that are on the bus what is going on. You'll see if there's repeat telegrams, there's failed telegrams. You get all that sort of information in here. So let's stop that now so as I don't forget. And again, you can save, clear, print, and all that sort of stuff there. The options, we can look at the coloring. So there's general options on the bus monitor, and coloring is the one that's very important. Because you see here, we can look at the various telegrams and we can see what color they are when on the bus. So if I see a yellow telegram, and they will stand out if there's a yellow telegram, it will show me some devices repeating telegrams on the bus because they're not being acknowledged. So nobody's acknowledging the telegram, so he will send them. So if the device does not get an acknowledgement, it will send the telegram 3 times and then it will stop. We can also see telegrams that are not acknowledged. We can see negative acknowledged, we can see unknown source, unknown destination. So you can sort of see the usefulness of this. When we have a big system with lots of telegrams flying around the place, repeat telegrams stand out, not acknowledged telegrams stand out. So straight away, you will see something in your network that it'll give you a hint as to what's going on, and it'll just get you to set you down the right path for further investigation. Another useful thing is to unload a device. If I've programmed a device and I want to take it off my network, I want to, I don't know, somebody's programmed it wrong, or there's a wrong application in it, or any number of any one of a number of things, I can unload the device. So once I click the unload button, it will ask me to press the programming button on the device. Once I press the programming button, it will unload the device. And by unloading the device, what it does is it takes the application out of the actual device and it resets its device address, area.line.device, back to the default factory setting, which is 15.15.255. So that's important to remember. When you unload a device, it just goes back to its factory default settings and it's ready then to be programmed again. If you need to move it to another part of your network, if you need to download a different application to it, once you've unloaded it, it enables you to do that. Device info is another very useful device, or it's another very useful option. I can look at any device on my network, and I know I have a few devices here, so I can look at this device and I can read his info. So ETS in its wisdom will go off and pull the information back from that device for me. So I can see the device address, I can see all sorts of serial numbers, hardware types. I have its firmware version. That's useful for me. I have its bus voltage. Is it in programming mode? I can see here the unformatted values. I can see the application program that's running in the device. Yeah. So it's loaded with that and everything's fine. Other than that, I can see the tables are loaded, the association, the group objects, and the address tables. They're all loaded. So the device is just sitting there. It's ready. There's all its information. If I need that, I can copy it out, copy it to clipboard, print it, close it, save it, whatever I want to do. It enables me to get the information from the device. Important things like the bus voltage. If the bus voltage is too low, I know the device is going to reset itself. If the firmware version is old, I know we need to update the firmware version of the device. If we don't do that, again, we're missing out on bug fixes, we're missing out on new features, we're missing out on all sorts of things like that. I'll close that. Next useful window is looking at the individual addresses of a device. And if I walk into a room and the switch is on the wall, and the installer has done a great job, excuse me, and he hasn't put any labels on anything, and I just won't know what I'm looking at. So how can I get around this? Well, the simple way is to put the devices in programming mode. I can just start that. So now ETS is scanning the bus. It's scanning the bus. You can see it here. We're scanning for devices in programming mode. So if I just take one of my devices here, set it to programming mode, there we go with address. So it's a handy way of identifying a device that, yeah, it's there. We don't know what it is. How are we going to look at it? How are we going to find it? Hit the programming button on the front of the device, and we will see then that it goes into programming mode. And when I turn it off, it comes back out, and it's ready for me to hit the next one. So that's a handy way to identify devices on your network if you don't have any information. If you go into a switchboard and somebody's thrown away the drawings or somebody's messed something up and you have no information, you can go to each device and you can hit programming mode on the front of those devices, and you can quickly figure out which device is which on your network. Okay? So, individual device address check. This is another way to identify devices on your bus. I can pick any number. Again, it's area 1.1. Let's look for 25. Does it exist? So ETS will go off and scan the line and see if it can find these different devices for me on the network. Usually takes it a minute or two because it scans the line, it requests. If it can't find it, it will come back and tell me the device does not exist eventually. It just takes it a bit of time. And of course, it's going to take forever today, isn't it? Well, there we go. So it's red. The device doesn't exist, yeah? Quite simple. That device address is not seen on our bus. Maybe we think it should be there, but it's not there. So why can we not see it? Whereas if I look at 100, which we just checked a minute ago, green straight away. It's polled it. It's answered straight away. We can see it. Now, again, I've walked into my switchboard and I don't know which device it is in there. I can flash the LED on the front of it. So if I hit flash, the LED goes on, the LED goes off, the LED goes on, the LED goes off. So if you have a big switchboard again full of devices, you can flick this on and off and you will see which device you're talking to on the bus. Again, you can turn the LED on or the LED off, so you'll be able to see what's happening there. The last useful function here is the line scan. So I can pick any line in my network and I can go and scan for devices. So I know I have device 1.1 here. Yeah. How am I connected to it? I'm just on a twisted pair. Usually I'm on a twisted pair. So I can scan the line and he goes off and he'll find all the devices that are on that line. It takes a minute or two because what ETS is doing is looking for device 111, then 112, then 113, then 114, all the way to 255. So it will go and scan every device. It'll try to find every device on that line, and it will just take its time to do it. As you see here, it's pulling the mask versions for all the bus coupling units on the devices. And he'll be finished soon. There you go. Yeah, so he's pulled what he can off the network. Some of the devices I know are empty on that switchboard here. There's some empty devices and some devices with nothing in them. So you can see here the most useful things in this section are the group monitor and the bus monitor. Interfaces are important. It's always important to know how you're connected to the bus. And then programming mode and individual address check. These are very important features and very important to know all these pieces. Catalogs are also important. You can see I've downloaded a lot of the ABB stuff, but in the new modern catalogs, you can see it still sits in the cloud, for example. If there's a little cloud icon on the side, it means I haven't downloaded it onto the PC, so I haven't used it. We can download it if we need to be, but if you don't need it, don't download it. It doesn't matter, but I'll explain more about that later. We can import devices into the catalog. And let me show you where to get these device information. So I look at my web browser. I'm going to have to open another web browser, aren't I? Yeah, let me open another web browser. So there we go. So I open a web browser, and I can go to www.abb.com/KNX. And I'm back to my home page for all KNX information. And if I want a device, say I need a relay, I'll say I'll pick, what will I pick up? I need a 10 amp switch actuator. So it'll go and find all the 10 amps. So I'll take this 12 channel 10 amp switch actuator. I'll get into the product page. So all the product information is available from here. We've all the technical specs with a description on the front and all the useful information, dimensions and box weights and all that sort of stuff. In the download section then, I've all data sheets, conformity instructions, manuals. Manuals are very handy. There's some presentations in here. But what I'm looking for in here now is the software. So I have the ETS application file for this. So I can download this file. It downloads into the bottom here. I have it now downloaded. So if I haven't got it in here and I can't find it in here, I can just click on the import button. It's appeared at the top of my list. I can open it. So you can see it's taken all the devices information in. Might take a minute or two, but let's do it. Import all. I just click import all. I'm lazy. And it will import all the information for those devices now into ETS. So all those devices will exist in here. The cloud icons, if they're already in here, the cloud icons will disappear. And all these devices will then be available for ETS to program. Might take it just a minute or two. But once I have them in here, I never have to import them again. From time to time, it is good habit to go and check if there's a new version being released. New versions come out not infrequently. And it's important to look for these because, again, there's usually bug fixes and there's all sorts of stuff like that in there. It'll import all that. It'll import all the devices. I'm going to stop it because we don't want to sit here. Oh, import successful. Just as I was about to stop it. So I've imported all these devices now into my product catalog. If I want, I can do a search. I can search there. I can search by SA/S. And you find some of them are in there and most of them should be in there at this stage. So that's my product catalog. I can find things in there. I can look for certain things. Another useful function here is that if I need to give to any of you guys a few applications, I can select, say, that one. I want to download. I can select that one. I can control select those. I can export them into one file, give it any name I want, and send it to you guys. And you can go by the same import to bring it then into your project. Yeah. So if you need something, you're lost, whatever, I can always do it and send it back to you. It's easy. And finally, the last tab we have here is our settings tab. So it's just general settings for the software, how it's going to work, what it's going to do. And the online catalog is usually worth enabling because then you can sort of download all what you need. They're available. You just see the cloud icons. Data storage is handy to look at as well. Where's our project archive? Where is stuff saved and all that? And there's some troubleshooting. There's tool diagnostics. Generally, I wouldn't spend a lot of time in here. There isn't a lot of stuff I do in here. Main page is always going to be the front overview page. This is where we work on our projects, and this is where we get going from anything. So, we're nearly halfway through. So let's go and create a project, and I'll show you what we have to do. So the first thing we do when we create a project, of course, is we click on the new project. We can give it anything. We can say new project. What day is today? We'll say it's Wednesday. Our backbone, our KNX backbone, if you remember from our topology last week, we can have a twisted pair or an IP backbone. I'll just go twisted pair. It will create line 11 for us. It's twisted pair. Our group address style has 3 levels, so we can create a project. So now I have created a project. Yeah. So you can see here now, this is my first project created. I have nothing in here. Yeah, it's just a blank, empty project. Dynamic folders, there's nothing in here. I have my project, new project Wednesday. So if I want, I can add a building part in here. I can say, what am I going to call it? House, for example. Yeah. So my new project, I now have a house. Yeah. I can add a floor if I want. Yeah. So I can say ground floor. I can go into the ground floor then, because the ground floor is now available to me, and I can start adding rooms. Now, you see me, I'm just clicking here. I'm right-clicking on ground floor, and I can then add building parts, yeah? Another way to do it is I can just select it, and I can add a room, yeah? So there's always multiple ways to add things and do things in KNX or in ETS. So let's just select on the ground floor. We can add a room. What building would we like to add? Let's call it the switch room, for example. I'm just making things up as I go along here. Okay. So now my ground floor, I have a switch room, and let's add another room, and I'm going to call it kitchen. Okay. Simple and easy. So next thing I want to do is in my switch room, I can add in a cabinet if I want. All my switchboard gear has to go into board, so I call it DB1. Yeah. Makes sense, it's easy. So I now have a switch room, kitchen, and a distribution board. Into my distribution board, what do I want to do now? I can start adding devices. So I can think, oh, now here's the catalog of all my devices that are available. So I know we just imported the SAS. An SAS is a switch actuator relay. So I can take an 8-channel, 16 amps per channel, version 2. You can see down here, where are we going to add it? We can add it in building part DB. We just click add. We can select here. I'll just show you. We can select here, and we can drag it and drop it into the room we have selected. We can double click it, or we can add it from down here. Yeah. You'll see it's automatically given the device the next free available device address, yeah? So our first device was 111, our second device is 112, 113, etc. I'm going to delete these two out. Just hit delete, just for the heck of it. So I have a switch actuator, a relay in my distribution board. I have a switch room. Okay, in my switch room, I'm going to need a switch. I need a light switch, don't I? So I know ABB part numbers, and I know 6126. There's a 4-gang switch. I'll add this one. Be careful adding devices. You can see the software version number, yeah? So always make sure you've downloaded and installed the latest version. If I just close the property window, you get to see it better. So always make sure you're installing the latest one, yeah? So I can add a switch now into my room. So I've added a 4-button switch into my room. You can see it's automatically been given the next free address, yeah? Which is 112. I also might want what else might I want? I might want to add a 4-button switch into my kitchen. So I select my kitchen there, and I can drop it in with a double click. Or I can just select kitchen here, dining room here. I can just select. There's multiple different ways to do it in ETS. One way isn't better than the other. They're all, all different ways of doing things. It's more than one way to skin a cat. So I now have devices set up. Yeah. And I'm at kitchen. So in my building now, I have the house, the ground floor. Ground floor has a kitchen with a switch in it. I have a switch room that has a distribution board with a relay in it, and also has a switch in the room. So you can see I have device addresses set up for these, automatically given the next one. If you don't like these, look at the property window. You can change the device address here if you want. So I don't like him as 3. I might want him to be 10. Back over here, the device address has changed. Yeah, Quite simple and easy. So now that I've done that, generally I wouldn't program here. What generally I would do is I would go into the topology view where I can see my whole line and my whole building. So I can see all my devices now set up here. Yeah. Another thing we can do with the properties is very handy. I might click there, and the description here, it's not really much use to us. Fine having the part number, that's nice to have, but the rest of the description doesn't suit. So we can go here and we can change it. And we can say kitchen or button switch. I can say switch room switch, garage switch, whatever we want to call it. So, you know, you can tidy things up. You can make things much easier to read. You know, some of us at OCD like to make it all nice and neat and tidy and plan it out. But this is generally the way we'll do it. Okay, so now we've added these 3 devices now into our project. Next thing we have to do is we have to connect them. So how do we connect from the switch actuator, which has all its different channels? This guy has 8 different channels, to our switches. So what we've got to look at is, I'll say the switch room switch. Let's say the lights in the switch room are switched from, I don't know, yeah, channel A and B on the switch actuator. What we see here are the group objects of the device. Now think of the group objects as the terminals on the device, okay? So you can see the switch actuator has all these terminals. We have a switch signal, we have a switch status. So you can see that for each channel, we have a switch and a switch status signal for each channel. You can also see, if you look at the switch, we have a switch signal. For switch 1 will be taken as button pair 1, 2, and switch 3 is taken as button pair 3, 4. It's a bit confusing, but you'll get to know it over time. It's just a matter of being au fait with the products and just knowing your way around them. So how do we connect these? We can see the group objects on the different devices, and the question is really, how do we connect them? Well, we need to connect these with what's called group addresses. So we need to define some group addresses because we haven't set any group addresses up yet for this project. So I can click up here and I can go to the group address view. Yeah. So now we see that there's no group addresses being set up for this project. So we got to set up, and we got to figure out how we're going to set up group addresses. Well, we need to think what functionality we're going to have in this project. Are we going to have lighting? Are we going to have heating? Are we going to have general controls? What way are we going to set this up? So I can add a main group, and I can say, what do I want? I can say house, spelled that wrong, house 1 can be my main group. Depends, everything is different, every project is different. I can add a middle group, I can say lighting. Now I have house 1 lighting. I can add another middle group, I could say maybe heating. And I could add another middle group, maybe general. Oh, I'm just making things up here. So on my lighting then, I may want to define some group addresses so I can connect my devices together. So I can add a group address and I can say kitchen light on off. Define another group address. I could say kitchen light status. And going by what we've already done, I will say also add a group address. I can say switch room light on off. And I can also add a switch room status. Okay. Now I have defined the connections for my lights. If you want, you can go and define for your whole building. You can define every light with a status, with an on off, with a dim signal, with a value signal. There's lots of things you can define in here. Custom and practice will just get you used to it. But as a starting point, this is a very good starting point. So we have defined now the connections that are going to connect our relays to our switches. So what I would do next is I would go back to my topology and I would open up my devices. And I would say, okay, on the switch actuator with the relay, I could say channel A is going to be linked with an existing group address. And we could say channel A, for example, is my kitchen light on off. Yeah. I can link the status on that. It'll automatically jump to the next free one. That's okay where we have a small number of group addresses, but if you have 1,000 group addresses, you'll get quickly confused. Makes sense to have proper descriptions. Whatever works for you, everybody does it differently. Kitchen light status is connected there. For channel B, I might say, again, we look and we can see switch room light on off. And then we can link with switch room status. Yeah. So we can see now that's the connections done for my relay. My relay is now connected. I have the kitchen lights connected with the kitchen light status. I have the switch room connected with the switch room status. Yeah. That's connected at the relay side. We also have to connect it at the switch side. So if I look at the switch room switch, I can say on this channel, we're linking with, what are we linking with? It's the switch room light on off. I can say on this one, the kitchen light, we can connect the kitchen light on off. Kitchen light on off. So now, when I take that information and download to the devices, this switch, the kitchen 4-button switch, when I hit on, it will send a telegram with that group address 001 onto the bus. The devices that are programmed to listen for that group address, which in this case is channel A here, when I see 001 as a telegram coming onto the bus, I will switch on or off exactly as required. Yeah. And it's the same then for the switch room light. Switch room light sends 003. And channel B here, the output B is listening for 003. When I get 003 then, I will switch on or off, depending on whether I send a value on or off or a 001. I will send accordingly the correct telegram onto the bus, and I will listen for that telegram. Yeah? Does that make sense? When I look at the line, I can see straight away the status here of my line. I can see I have a relay connected here. I haven't downloaded. I know I haven't downloaded to the device because when I download to a device, I get green ticks all along here. So first thing you have to do when you're downloading to a device, unfortunately, I don't have one of these here, so I can't download to it. But I will download its individual address. Yep. So I will click download individual address. Bump. I get a message over here as it connects to the bus. It tells me to press the program button on the front of the device. So what I would do then is press the program button on the front of the device and the address will be downloaded to the device. I can cancel that because I don't have one to connect to, but just let me show you one that I can do. On my line, I can add a device. I actually have a DALI gateway here set up. DG/S. And it's actually, which one is it? It's this guy here. So I can add him. So it imports the application now for the DALI device into my project. I can close that window. So I have him set up here just on a different address. So I just want to change his address to, just go to 150, for example, hit enter, and you can see his address has changed here. Oh no, that's the wrong one, sorry. DALI gateway is there. So the DALI gateway needs to be, I'll go 120. This is just an example, just to show you how it's done. I will then go click, right click, download individual address. what it will do then is it'll ask me to press the programming button, which, because I have it beside me here, I can actually do. I press the programming button on the front of the device. ETS then programs the address. The device restarts, and it's finished. So I have downloaded the address into the device. And if I look back on the line now, I can see ticks. Yeah, I have 2 successful ticks on that line now because I have downloaded to this device. I have downloaded its address and it has its config file installed. Yeah, and as you go through, and if we then went on the device, if we downloaded the switch actuator with its address, and then we download the application, then we download its group addresses, which we can do in all in one application download. So I would go typically next, download application, and it will download the application, the group addresses, all that sort of stuff will get downloaded to the device in one fell go. It's quite easy after that, and then you just configure the device, you try and make it how you work it, various things you can do with it. Interesting thing I can show you now is on the diagnostics, where we were looking at the group monitor, we can look at what's happening on the bus here now. So again, I'll go to my DALI device. I will download the individual address. And again, it'll ask me to press the programming button. Yeah, there we go. So I press the programming button, and you see the telegrams going through on the bus as it's programming the device. Yeah. So I have all the information then I have all the information here of what's happening on the bus. We can scroll back up. We can look at the timestamps of the telegrams. We can see who's sending the address, what type of telegram it is, etc., etc., etc. So we can see what's happening to the device on it. Very handy. We can see who we're programming. Sometimes sometimes useful, sometimes not. So also as part of our project, we can click reports. We can create reports on our project, and we can create some very useful reports here. If I click on the building functions, it creates a report for me. Building functions, new project, gives you the title, start date, print date, gives you the time. And we can have a look at the project and see what's in our project. Yeah. So we can get a lot of information. Look at the little project we have now. If I click on my buildings, so I now have a building project set up there. There's my devices in my lines. Okay, still small. I can look at the objects, the group objects connected to this as well. So now in my report, I have all the group objects that have something connected to them. Yeah, so you can see what's connected to them. You can see what group objects are available for the devices and what group addresses are connected. So if you want to document a project when you're finished, you can go in here and create as big a report as you want on paper for anybody. Typically, you know, I've seen projects that run to 1,000 pages. And it's great. It's great for producing documents for consultants at the end of a project. Consultants often want full documentation. We can go in here and we can create as much as we want. We can include parameter settings. The project just gets bigger again, or the file just gets bigger again. We're up to 8 pages now. Look. We only have a couple of devices connected in here. There's not really a lot going on, but we can look and see what's connected, and we can get all the information on this project now. Yeah, so it's very handy and very useful. Yeah. Again, I can unclick that. I can unclick that. We can print it. We can save it, export it. We can do all the usual things with our project file. We can create parts lists, topology lists. These reports are very, very handy. Yeah, very often they help at the end of a project. So, what time are we at now? We're nearly at 10 to 3. One thing to remember is I've often seen people by mistake close their project windows. Then they go into panic mode. Oh, what happens? Oh, I've gone. Workplace. You click on Workplace, open new panel. You can get straight back into wherever you want into your project. Yeah. As I said previously, if we want to get back to the home page, click on the green ETS button up the top. Yeah, here's our new project. ETS automatically saves the project in the background that we're working. And if we want to export it and save it in a safe place, just select export now and stick it wherever you want to stick it. stick it on a hard drive, stick it on a CD, stick it on a USB stick. Exporting the project is very simple. And like I said, with the project documentation, generally it's useful to print out a full document of what's been done in the whole project and to add a USB stick with the project on it. Then you've done everything. Your project should be finished. Everything should be committed. Everything should be done. Happy customers at the end of the day. One thing that's also very useful is my background is actually process automation. I'm used to do an awful lot of documentation for projects. And I often say to people working in domestic projects that, you know, you've got to be very careful. You've got to document what you're providing. You've got to make sure the customer signs off on what you have done. This will get rid of all the sort of haggling over last payments, you know, the final payments for a project. You've just got to make sure that everything is well documented. Once you've well documented everything, 3 days, you can give them the project file at the end. You can give them all the printouts and documentation they need, and hopefully you'll have a happy customer. So they're just some of the hints that I've learned over the years. So I think really that's all I really want to show today. Yeah, there's a lot of information there, guys. That's a quick run around ETS. Obviously, with experience, you'll get to learn more shortcuts. There's lots of shortcuts, and there's lots of different ways to do things. What I'll do next week is I'll set up a dialy gateway here. I've added the dialy gateway into the project. So next week, what we can do is we can connect to that dialy gateway. We can configure some dialy lines. We can get some dialy lights turning on and off. And generally, we can have a play with the system. So thanks for your time today, guys. I look forward to talking to you all again next week. If you have any questions now, let Jersey know, and I'll hand over to Jersey now. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Ian, for very detailed and nicely provided training on what could be seen in the first instance, very complicated tool, but I use it myself. I've done the basic KNX training. And I have to admit that after a couple of little projects you start with, it all becomes much more clear.
No, none of it is. None of it's done automatically, especially not for the devices, because most KNX devices aren't actually connected to the internet. Generally, I'll work on the old premise that if it's not broken, don't fix it. Most devices, once you've set them up, once the project is up and running, everything's configured, you never have to touch them again. Certainly, if you come back in a couple of years and there's updates to be done, use that opportunity to provide updates, or even sell a service contract to come in once a year and spend 2 or 3 hours looking at the system, giving it a good all look through, and if there are updates, running some updates into the system. But certainly, in my experience, you really only have to update firmware at the start of a project. If it's needed, it's not always needed, and it's very seldom that it's actually done. Time to time, there will be firmware updates. There'll be notifications on our website. Certainly, we have notifications for it. But with ETS, every time you log on to ETS, always click on the Check Now button for an update. I know with my laptop, when I'm on my corporate network, it does not automatically pick up updates because the corporate network blocks those messages going backwards and forwards. I'm on my home network now, and it updates itself, and it's fine, and I can click on it and update it, and it'll let you know there's updates available, but generally it's up to you to confirm the updates. Yes, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. There are a number of trainings available on the KNX website, and it's a good idea to have a look at these and run through the idea of these. And that's really when we eventually get to run the basic training course, that's the whole idea. Half of that week is dedicated to showing you and getting you used to playing with group addresses, to get used to playing with topology and group structure, and get used to doing all this stuff and learning it in a classroom environment where you can make the mistakes and have time to learn it, rather than going to site and spending time on site and bashing your head against a brick wall because you've done something wrong. Certainly, there's a bit of learning in this, and that's really what the week-long introductory training is for.
Well, we have a very short webinar presentation structure here. We can't provide as much as normally is provided during KNX basic training, but for all our installers interested in KNX, be sure that we'll be organizing together with Ian and ABB the next round of in-class KNX basic training. The one which was scheduled already on 20th of April couldn't happen because of coronavirus lockdown. But Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to have another one as soon as the lockdown is lifted up and we are ready.
We will, yeah. It's unfortunate. It's bad timing, really, isn't it? I know now we have an email last week where they're not allowing us into the office to the end of May now. So that's the next step. Is I don't know. I mean, I don't think any of us know at this stage, or we can say with any certainty as to when all these restrictions are going to be lifted. But certainly with health and safety and control of everything and working for a global corporate, we have to go by the instructions of our global masters.
But that's coming. Thanks for this confirmation. We will have a face-to-face in-class training where you'll see, Nick, all those devices, or actually some of them popular devices wired up. You will be playing with them during the basic KNX training. Alternatively, and this is another option, in our showroom at the DHS office in Greensboro, we have the board, interactive board, which we're actually finishing right now, but at the time when it will be possible to have visitors, so hopefully next couple of weeks, you are very welcome, Nick and all other installers interested, to visit us. We will have quite a few KNX ABB devices connected with Comfort Click Jigsaw, in this case Jigsaw KNX controller and visualization tool, and also you'll see in action also Z-Wave connected to the same installation and some other IP control devices, for example cameras or voice control. So we have finalizing now the very much interactive, fully blown system, of course, to the level we can create in showroom. And this interactive board will be to present, but also to have one-on-one presentations and discussions about specifics and details. So you are very welcome. In a couple of weeks, we'll announce, hopefully after lockdown lifted up, the invitations to come and see all this.
You're very right, Jersey. It's kind of like learning to drive a car by in a webinar. You need to get into a car and physically do it.
Absolutely, and please keep in mind that we can provide you all this hardware, so all KNX ABB devices, and also Comfort Click controllers, and of course Z-Wave devices and other IP devices to comply. And you can just get the basic set and play on your bench. If you are really serious about KNX, which is actually obviously a good idea, to put them on your bench and just play, make all possible connections yourself. It's from my experience, it's really hard to break anything because KNX is low voltage DC twisted pair. So seriously, you can't get wrong much unless you're really, really creative. But with these three options, I think we covered this question, Nick. Thank you for this.
This is a question I often get from people that are used to programming other systems. In other systems, certainly you need a lot of logic, but not so much in ETS and KNX World. KNX World is the devices have a lot of parameters with all the sort of controls you need built into them. Certainly we do have logic modules, we do have logic control, and a lot of the devices do have logic installed in them. But in a lot of cases, I have guys ask me about doing this, that, and the other with logic modules. And mostly in KNX, you can get away without them. Mostly you don't need them. So it's just a matter of experience and knowing the parameters of the devices and what can be set within the devices. In general, in most cases, you don't need them, but where you do need them, there are logic modules and logic devices available, yes.
Thank you, Ian. And maybe one more to this. Comfort Click is a visualization tool, but also is automation controller. So there's quite a lot of logic, including quite complex virtual devices based on calculations, weather forecasts, reading analog and digital inputs you can create and set up. So there's a few options, either using KNX control logics or using one of those gateways, for example, from Comfort Click, to actually make your logic control in more advanced than pure KNX distributed way. First of all, thank you, Ian, for this rather successful webinar about KNX. This time we had a very complex topic on using ETS. Complex topics only because it was 30 or 40 minutes to provide such a vast ocean of options. So you've done very, very well, Ian. Thank you for this, and looking forward for the next webinars. Just to remind, next week we have DALI with Ian Harding at 3 p.m. Just to remind, 6th of May, 3 p.m. And in 2 weeks' time, we'll have another Comfort Click KNX Z-Wave Gateways presentation, this time on the business level, on the high level, where we're presenting, actually not us, there will be again Comfort Click presenter, Flavio Sanchez. He will be presenting how Comfort Click gateways work on the installation level, on the user requirements level, what it can do about integration with third-party systems, business cases, use cases, all these interesting things which you can utilize in your projects. So at this point of time, I think we reached the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for watching us. And if you have any further questions, by all means, please send us to office@dhsys.com.au. All the webinars which we had so far and the future ones, you will find the links to replace or the links to join on digitalhomesystems.com.au and the webinar page. That's all for now. Thank you and see you next week.
Thank you, guys. See you next week. Cheers.